Rain poured over Manhattan like a curtain of cold silver. The city bustled on, indifferent, too busy to notice a frail girl, shivering near the entrance of the Conrad Hotel. Wrapped in a damp hoodie, her eyes scanned the street, darting from one face to another until they stopped on him. Alexander Reed, billionaire, tech magnate, America's most eligible and unreachable bachelor. He stepped out of a sleek black SUV, his tailored coat flapping slightly in the wind, bodyguards close behind. Flashbulbs from paparazzi cameras sparked like lightning, but he barely noticed. Another gala, another speech, another handshake. It was all routine, until her voice cut through the noise. Mr. Reed. He turned instinctively. The girl stepped into view, dripping, trembling, barefoot. Security moved fast. 2 men blocked her path, hands already reaching. "Wait," Alexander said, raising a hand. "Let her speak." The girl's lips trembled, but her voice was steady. "Your wife. She's not who you think she is." Gasps. A camera clicked. One of the bodyguards scowled, about to shove her aside. Alexander's brow furrowed. "What did you say?" Lena swallowed hard. "She's dangerous, and she's planning something. You need to listen to me, please." His jaw tightened. "Who are you?" She opened her mouth, then hesitated. "Someone who knows the truth," she said. "And if you ignore me, it might just kill you." The moment lingered, tense, electric. Then security dragged her back, cameras flashing wildly as she vanished into the blur of rain and headlights. Alexander stood still, her words echoing in his mind. "She's not who you think she is." He shook it off, turned, and walked into the hotel. But that night he couldn't sleep, and by morning everything had changed. The rain came down hard, turning the city's streets into rivers of glistening silver. Inside a sleek black Bentley gliding through the dark, puddled avenues of downtown, Alexander Reed leaned back against the plush leather seat, his eyes glued to his phone screen. "Wrong turn," his driver muttered under his breath. Alexander barely acknowledged him. "Just get us home," he replied coolly, voice calm but weary. The traffic had slowed to a crawl near an old church that now served as a soup kitchen. Outside, huddled figures in drenched clothing lined up beneath broken umbrellas and torn coats. Streetlights flickered in the storm, casting shadows on faces hollowed by hunger and time. Alexander rarely saw this side of the city. His life was lived in boardrooms, luxury hotels, and high-rise penthouses. But tonight, a charity event had run late, and the GPS reroute had landed them here. Suddenly, a hand slapped against the window, quick and urgent. Startled, Alexander looked up. A girl stood there, soaked to the bone, her hair plastered against her pale face. She couldn't have been older than 20, maybe younger. Her eyes wide, desperate, and filled with something deeper than fear, locked onto his. "Sir, please listen to me," she shouted through the glass. The driver reached for the button to roll the window up, but Alexander raised his hand. "Wait." The girl pressed both palms, flat against the window. "You don't know me, but I know your wife. You're in danger." Alexander's heart gave a strange skip. "What?" "I need to tell you something. About Cassandra. She's not who you think she is." Her voice cracked, trembling with urgency. The driver glanced back. "She's probably a con artist. Want me to call security?" But something in the girl's expression rooted Alexander in place. Her words weren't rehearsed. Her panic was real. He lowered the window a few inches. "What did you say about my wife?" he asked, voice sharper now. "I knew her. Years ago. Before she changed her name. Please, just listen to me. You can't trust her. She hesitated, as if the words hurt to say. "She's dangerous." Alexander frowned. "You're mistaken. You must be. No, Cassandra Monroe. That was her name before. Look her up, please. She's not who she says she is." Before he could ask more, the light turned green. Horns blared behind them. "Keep driving," Alexander muttered, eyes still on the girl. As the car pulled away, she stepped back into the downpour, soaked and shivering, her hands dropping limply to her sides. Inside the Bentley, silence hung heavy. "Should have ignored her," the driver grumbled. "They make up stories, these people. Just trying to scam the rich." But Alexander's fingers drummed on the leather armrest. The girl's voice echoed in his head, her eyes, her urgency. Cassandra Monroe. He didn't sleep well that night. Cassandra returned home close to midnight, drenched in perfume and smiles. "The gala was exhausting," she said, kicking off her heels and slipping into a silk robe. "Why didn't you come?" "I had meetings." He avoided her gaze. Cassandra leaned in, kissing his cheek. "You work too hard." He forced a smile. "And you don't work hard enough." She laughed. That's why we make the perfect team. But as she disappeared into the bathroom, Alexander stared at the closed door. A strange tightness gripped his chest. He reached for his phone and typed into a private search engine, Cassandra Monroe. The results loaded slowly. Most were old and fragmented. A few grainy photos. One headline caught his eye. Wealthy retiree dies weeks after. Marriage, widow disappears from public view. Alexander Reed hadn't touched his morning espresso. The cup sat cold on his mahogany desk, forgotten. His usual routine of scanning stock updates and company mergers was replaced with a file now opened in front of him, one compiled hastily by a private investigator he'd hired just hours ago. The name on the first page struck like a bell in a crypt. Cassandra Monroe, a.k.a. Cassandra. Reed, aliases, suspicious marriage histories. Legal gaps. Her past was a carefully choreographed dance of reinvention. One line stood out in bold red letters, listed as spouse to Martin Caldwell. Caldwell died of sudden cardiac arrest 2 months into their marriage. Case closed as natural. No autopsy requested by next of kin. Widow disappeared days after inheriting Caldwell's estate. Alexander sat back, stunned. He remembered Cassandra telling him her parents died young, that she had no siblings, and that she lived abroad for most of her 20s. Every memory she'd offered was so perfectly wrapped that he'd never questioned it. But the investigator found fragments. Old DMV records, a school yearbook from Arizona, a blurry photo of 2 sisters, names scribbled Lena and Cassie. He scrolled down again. No legal record of Lena Monroe. Found after 2018. Assumed to be transient. A deep sense of unease slithered down his spine. Lena's desperate warning in the rain echoed in his ears. Just then the door creaked open. Cassandra entered in a silk robe, eyes bright. Alexander closed the laptop with casual ease and said he couldn't sleep, claiming a big merger call ahead. She kissed the top of his head and said not to work too hard, that she was going to the spa for a few hours. He forced a smile and told her to enjoy herself. As she turned to leave, her reflection in the mirror met his gaze. For a split second, her eyes lingered on the laptop, too long. Alexander made a decision that changed everything. He was going to find Lena again. Across town, Lena dragged her cart of belongings through the alleyways near the soup kitchen. Her limbs were sore, her clothes soaked from another rainy night. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. She sat on the curb unwrapping a bruised banana, her mind lost in thought. She hadn't expected Alexander to believe her. But she had seen hesitation in his eyes, that seed of doubt. It was enough. Lena, a voice called. She turned and saw Terry, one of the kitchen volunteers. He was in his 50s with a gray beard and a kind face. He asked if she was okay, crouching beside her. She nodded slowly and said she thought she poked a hornet's nest last night. Terry frowned and asked with who. A woman I used to know, Lena said. She's married to a billionaire now. I tried to warn him, but... She trailed off, unsure if she sounded insane. Terry gently said she shouldn't go poking rich people's lives, that they can crush folks like them. Lena met his eyes and said she didn't care. She wouldn't let her hurt someone else. Terry sighed and told her to at least come inside and get some food. As Lena stood, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. She stiffened. The door opened and out stepped Alexander Reed. Gasps rippled through the people in line. Cameras flashed from curious onlookers, but Alexander's eyes were only on Lena. She froze. He calmly addressed her, saying they needed to talk. Terry stepped in protectively, asking if there was a problem. Alexander replied that he just wanted to speak with her alone. Lena hesitated, heart racing, but she nodded. They stepped around the corner, out of sight. She asked why he came back, her voice wary. Alexander studied her, noticing how thin and trembling she looked, though her spirit hadn't cracked. He said he believed her. Lena's eyes widened. You do? He nodded and explained that he looked into Cassandra's past, that what Lena said lined up. Overwhelmed, Lena bit her lip. Alexander asked for the full truth, needing to know everything she knew if Cassandra was dangerous. Lena exhaled shakily and began. They were raised by the same mother, different fathers. Cassandra was always different, charming, manipulative. At 19, she started dating older, wealthy men. She learned to lie with a smile. Eventually, she married Martin Caldwell, a kind man. But after she got access to his assets, he died suddenly. Alexander asked if she believed Cassandra was responsible. Lena admitted she didn't have proof, but Cassandra knew how to cover her tracks. He then asked why Cassandra left her behind. Lena whispered that she tried to stop her. She told Martin the truth before the wedding. The next day, Cassandra drugged her, emptied her bank account, and vanished. She'd been living on the streets ever since. Alexander's face hardened. Cassandra had said she had no family, no siblings. Lena looked at him and said, "That's what Cassandra does, she lies." He looked away, processing it all. Lena quietly asked what he would do now. He said he would watch her, let her show her true self. But he wanted Lena safe. Somewhere Cassandra couldn't find her. Lena laughed dryly, saying safety didn't come easy in her world. Alexander pulled a card from his pocket and explained. There was a hotel with a private suite under a different name, complete with room service and security. Stay there on him. Lena blinked and asked why he would help her. He replied simply because she helped him. She stared at him, unsure if she was dreaming. He added not to trust anyone but the concierge and said he'd contact her soon, pressing the card into her hand. She clutched it tightly and warned him to be careful. Cassandra didn't leave loose ends. He gave a grim smile and said, neither did he. Back at the mansion, Cassandra watched from an upstairs window, her sharp eyes hidden behind gold-rimmed sunglasses. She'd followed Alexander's GPS, saw the car, saw her, Lena. Her lips curled slowly. She doesn't know when to quit, she murmured. That night, she pulled out a burner phone from a hidden drawer in her dressing room and dialed a number with shaking fingers. A man answered with a grunt. She said they had a problem. Someone she thought was buried came back to life. She needed her gone, quietly. The man asked if she was sure. Cassandra confirmed. She's staying at the Garnet on Westwood, room 408, tonight. She hung up and stared at her reflection. Sorry, little sister, she whispered. You had your chance. But what Cassandra didn't know was that Alexander had already planted surveillance in the house. The burner phone call had been intercepted by the private investigator he'd hired. At 10:22 p.m., he received a message. Your wife just ordered a hit on Lena. She gave a hotel room number to someone named Briggs, known for freelance cleanup jobs. Alexander's blood ran cold. He bolted from his study and dialed security. Contact the hotel. Move Lena, now. It was a race against time. At the Garnet Hotel, Lena had just settled in when a soft knock echoed on the door. Room service. She froze. She hadn't ordered anything. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a hotel vest holding a tray. Something felt off. She backed away quietly and texted Alexander. Someone's at the door. Didn't order anything. Seconds later, her phone buzzed with a reply. Hide. Now. Help is coming. The man tried the door handle. Lena sprinted into the bathroom, locking herself in, heart pounding like thunder. The door outside burst open. Footsteps creaked across the floor. She held her breath, praying help would come before it was too late. Lena crouched behind the shower curtain, holding her breath. The dim bathroom light flickered. A shadow passed the frosted glass door. She heard the man in the hotel room moving, slow, calculated steps. A creak of the floorboard. A drawer opened, then slammed shut. Her heart pounded in her ears. Then came the sound of a blade being unsheathed. Panic seized her chest. She grabbed her phone again, trembling fingers typing. He's in the room. Please hurry, no reply. The footsteps were closer now. He was just outside the bathroom door. Suddenly, bang! A crash of wood and a voice shouting, NYPD! Drop your weapon. Gunfire erupted. A scream, then silence. Lena curled up against the tub, tears brimming in her eyes. Moments later, the bathroom door opened slowly. A female officer stepped in, her expression gentle but alert. She said Lena was safe now. Lena collapsed into tears, the pressure of days, years finally releasing. At the precinct later that night, Alexander met Lena in a quiet interview room. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hoodie stained and torn, but her voice was steady as she admitted she thought she was going to die. Alexander reassured her that she wouldn't, not while he was around. He pulled out a thick manila envelope and handed it to her. When she asked what it was, he told her it was evidence, Cassandra's accounts, her aliases, the hired hitman. The man in the hotel room was Briggs, a known enforcer. Cassandra was tied to it all now. Lena opened the file, scanning the pages. She paused at a photo of her and Cassandra as children, laughing in the summer sun. She whispered that Cassandra used to braid her hair, told her she was the only real family she had. Alexander said she betrayed her, but she wouldn't hurt anyone else again. 2 days later, Cassandra Reed was arrested during a charity gala at the Ritz-Carlton, wearing a red Valentino gown and diamond earrings. She smiled politely as police led her out, but her eyes burned when they met Alexander's across the room. She hissed that he didn't know what he'd done. He responded that he knew exactly what he had done. The media exploded the next morning. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire's wife arrested in murder plot." Cassandra Reed's dark past revealed. Sister's testimony cracks the case. Public sympathy flooded in for Lena. Reporters camped outside the station. The woman once homeless was now hailed as a hero for saving a billionaire's life. But the spotlight didn't interest her. One evening, as Lena and Alexander sat by the Hudson River, she admitted she just wanted peace. He said he thought she had earned it, handing her a steaming cup of coffee. She asked him why he believed her. He hesitated, staring out at the water, then said it was because when he looked into her eyes that night in the rain, he saw something he hadn't seen in years. Honesty, the kind that doesn't ask for anything in return. She smiled faintly, saying that honesty nearly got her killed. He replied that it also saved his life. She reminded him of something he'd forgotten. Not all angels wear suits. She laughed, calling him the poetic billionaire. He chuckled, telling her not to let his board know, it'd ruin his image. In the following weeks, Alexander arranged for Lena to stay in a quiet cottage upstate. Safe, secure, and surrounded by nature, he gave her a job at one of his foundations, the Reed Hope Initiative, helping homeless youth transition off the streets. On her first day, a teenage girl approached her skeptical, asking if she really used to live in a shelter. Lena smiled and confirmed it. She'd slept in train stations, under bridges, you name it. The girl blinked, amazed, and asked how she now worked there. Lena replied that now she helped girls like her get out of that life, and maybe someday they'd help someone else too. The girl grinned. Lena felt something shift in her heart, like purpose settling into place. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Alexander visited the center unannounced. He walked through the garden and found Lena teaching a group of kids how to plant herbs. He teased that she really did have a green thumb. She looked up surprised and smiled, asking if he was still playing detective. "Always," he replied, holding up a small brown envelope, her official record cleared. She was no longer listed as a missing person or homeless. She had a clean slate. Lena took the envelope, tears pricking her eyes, and thanked him. Alexander tilted his head and asked her something crazy dinner, not as a client or savior, but as a man who found her company incredible. Her heart raced, and then she smiled, agreeing only if she got to pick the place. He laughed and said, "Deal." The article in Forbes read, "From Streets to Strength, the story of Lena. Monroe and the billionaire she saved." Lena sat on the porch of her home. Her home, reading it aloud to a group of young girls from the foundation. It said she gave everything when she had nothing, and in doing so, changed a man who had everything but had forgotten how to trust. One of the girls looked up and asked if it was true. Did she save him? Lena smiled and said no, they saved each other. Just then Alexander stepped onto the porch holding 2 mugs of tea. He placed one beside her and teased that she was going to be late for the award ceremony. She shrugged and said let them wait. He sat beside her, slipping his hand into hers. Because sometimes the most unexpected storms reveal the brightest sunrises. 1 year later, the rooftop of the Reed Hope Foundation glowed under soft golden lights, overlooking a city that no longer felt so cold. Children laughed in the courtyard below, their joy echoing through the walls Lena once walked past barefoot and unseen. Now she walked those same halls wearing confidence like a crown. Dressed in a simple, elegant navy gown, Lena stood at the podium facing a crowd of hundreds, donors, press, city officials, and those who once ignored her. Her voice was calm, steady, sure. She spoke of being the girl people passed without a second glance, the one others crossed the street to avoid, but all it took was one moment of courage and one man willing to listen. She turned toward the front row where Alexander sat, smiling at her like she was the most extraordinary thing in the room. Lena continued, saying the foundation didn't exist because she was saved, but because someone chose to believe a voice that came from the shadows. She said she shared the award with every girl, whoever felt invisible, and told them she saw them and believed in them. Thunderous applause erupted. Cameras flashed. But Lena didn't soak in the attention. Her eyes drifted back to Alex. Later that night, they stood hand in hand on the rooftop, watching the lights of New York flicker like stars. He teased her about still being scared of the spotlight, and she grinned, admitting a little but no longer running from it. He took her hand and kissed it gently, telling her she didn't just walk into the light, she was the light. She leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. From where she came, from shelter floors and rainy sidewalks, to here, standing beside a man she once warned, now her partner in life and purpose, Lena had become more than a survivor. She was a symbol, a voice that refused to stay silent, and somewhere in the streets, another girl would whisper into the darkness, hoping someone might hear her too, because now someone would. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye. See you in our next video.